it's a good thing.
Well, but sir, let me stop you. Obviously, plants put off more oxygen. Humans and animals are healthier. We know in a higher oxygen level. Plants, I've read, can't deal with as much stress. They believe the desertification of many areas of Sahara has actually been because of lower CO2. So obviously you're on the same page. To me, it looks like a danger of not having enough CO2, and then we bleed out like Mars. Well,
that's true. Well, Mars, landing Mars is probably to do with other things, but the CO2 levels, if they go very low, much lower than they are now, it means some plants wouldn't survive. Now, you see, there's certain, and I would say mad scientists, and that is the right word, in the delusional CO2 warmist camp, who want to develop microbes which would remove CO2. Now, from the atmosphere. Now, if these microbes are more efficient than photosynthesis, then they would reduce the levels of CO2 in the world, and the consequences would be that all plant life would die. And if that happened, we would die too.
Yeah, I saw that. They're developing these. They could release them and kill the planet.
Insane and dangerous, these people, and quite frankly, they should be locked up or set to do some useful work, such as coal mining in Africa, to help electrify Africa.
I know. We're trying to empower Latin America, Africa, Asia. I want people to live and be wealthy. And then the fake liberals call us racist when they want to kill these brown people deader than a hammer.
Sure. I think I should tell you a few things about general pictures of the future and more extreme events and so on. I mean, the first thing to know about our forecast is that when we have a big extreme event, we normally also predict some event on the sun, and you can see this.
Tell you what, stay there. You've done that accurately. Final segment, Piers. Stay there. Weatheraction.com. Incredible scientist, incredible information. And yes, they're already testing microbes that destroy carbon dioxide. Get rid of it. Folks, they want to kill the planet. These people are psychopathic demons from hell.
Solar power. Solar power. Hand crank.
Into this world we're thrown.
We are on a planet orbiting a giant star who has mass coronal ejections of flame thousands of times bigger than our planet. We are bathed in its radiation and its storms. The moon blocks that radiation at many times. The UN says has no effect on us. Really, the Earth's tilt away from the sun is what controls our seasons. This is how dumb they think you are. If you give the globalists a ride, my sweet darling, we will die. There is a killer on the road. His brain is squirming like a toad. Now, we're going back to our guest, Piers Corbyn. We're almost out of time. He's graciously going to come back on next Friday or next Thursday with us when he's got the full computerized report broken down. But finishing up the point about events here will be seen as events on the sun. Piers Corbyn, go ahead.
Hello, yes. Well, yeah, the point I wanted to make is that with our process, you can see events on the sun, which we predict, and then the consequential events on Earth. And if people go on our website and look at Weather Action News number 31, for example, it's spelled out there. It's just an example. 5th and 6th of November, we said there'd be a lot of events on the sun, and there was a very big active solar region, number AR1339. We also predicted, coinciding with that, or just following it, there would be possible tornado events in southwest England, which are quite rare, and there was one. We also predicted a deep low crossing the USA, which it did. And we predicted there would be more earthquakes in that period, which there were. So you can see the chain of events, which of course actually exist in reality, whereas there's no CO2 explanation for any of these things. Now, you'll be interested to know what's going to happen in the next year or so. And in general terms, there will be more of these very extreme events because of the Sun-Earth magnetic state we're in. And then after that, in a couple of years, there'll probably be less of these very extreme events. But there'll be a general shift to more cooling in the northern hemisphere. The jet stream will come further south. So we'll have more of these very cold winters, heavy snow, and so on. And there'll be similar problems in the southern hemisphere.
Now, sir, you're fading off whenever you talk a little softer. You were saying because we're in a higher magnetic field. What were you saying a minute ago?
No, what we're in is a solar minimum and moving towards
less.
the maximum.
Okay.
Well, there'll actually be more activity. but the Sun-Earth magnetic state is changing all the time. And we're now in a period for these, a few years of these very extreme events because of the coincidences.
Well, they say Texas is in a twice-a-century drought, and that's normally 9 years long. They say we're in the end of the 8th year. Is that all just poppycock, or, I mean, that's what the old-timers say, or is that based in reality?
Well, it might be true, but you mean, has it ever happened before? Well, of course it's happened before. All these things have happened before. So it will end in due course, and it's nothing to do with mankind. You see, when you see so many extreme things happening which we can predict in detail, it's ridiculous to say, well, anything we can't predict must be done by CO2. Just with more science, we actually can predict more things.
Wow. Well, we'll have to get that full report from you next Friday. Piers Corbyn of weatheraction.com. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And that guy is amazing, and his website is amazing, and he knows what's really going on. Amazing information. Okay, we're going to come back and go to your phone calls and cover other news ahead of the big Ron Paul interview. Most hardcore, best ever. Taped it right before the show. Don't forget, we've got something running up until the end of the year. And if you order by the 19th, it's guaranteed delivered to you before Christmas. The Alex Jones Everything Special, 18 DVDs at 70% off at Infowars.com. All right, we're going to premiere that Ron Paul interview at 1:30. It'll air here for the first time, the video, the audio, all of it. It was amazing. I'm going to cover news and take your calls right now. We cover it all with Ron Paul. Right now, let's go to Bruno in Maryland, then Lyndon, Otter, Mike, Matt, and others. In fact, Matt's next after Bruno. I just skipped Matt. Bruno, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, great to talk to you. Alex, I'm a Catholic priest and just wanted to weigh in on your reference to that bishop's document.
Yes, sir.
I've spent years researching it, and thank you, my brother, for all your stuff. I devour it. Alex, I just want to say, sadly, you might give them too much credit. I don't think these are guys who get the score. And it's ironic. You look back to Pope Pius X 100 years ago, and he said people who dreamed this utopia was possible were insane dreamers and miscreants. And I don't think they understand. I really don't. I think they have this utopian, naive vision, and that's as far as it goes. Yeah,
you're right. It's not the entire Catholic Church that's calling for the open borders. It's the 33 Hispanic bishops. But see how that's I mean, are they calling for Mexico to have open borders? Mexico's got some of the most controlled. The U.S. is wide open. We're bankrupt. And then it's like this idea that Newt has said, and so has Perry, that have a big heart. Give people who are illegal immigrants in-state tuition. Illegals. People in other states don't get that because it's paid for by Texas taxpayers. I mean, well, why don't we have a big heart then and just give everybody something free? Because you can't do that. I mean, it's crazy, that alone.
Oh, absolutely. And it's Cardinal Ratzinger, who's gone on to be the current pope. It's amazing, a man in his position back then, he openly lamented the quality of bishops chosen after the 1960s. And so, yeah, we're in quite a crisis. The best description I ever heard was it's the Mad Hatter's Tea Party writ large. But, but I don't think they're on board, Alex. I don't think, certainly they're not friends of the nations and Bilderbergs and globalists. I really think that they just dream of this silly future.
Well, all I know is the Ford Foundation, the globalists, the UN are all for totally open borders. We've got the most open society ever, and the globalists are using our freedom against us. And as I said, I mean, there's 6,700,000,000 people. Are they all going to come here? And then, and here's my issue with the average immigrant. They are buying the government's their friend, and when the government says you shouldn't own guns and we need higher taxes and communism, they think that's good because the government's acting like they're their friend. They're not your friend. I mean, where are these Hispanic bishops warning Mexico not to take the Gardasil shot? Where are the UN and others are pushing to not develop Mexico. You see, I actually want people to do well. I don't want them to be dead and sterile. But instead, they give them this fake liberation theology of, well, you'll get those evil Americans. You know, what about folks that are in your parish or flock or whatever? I mean, are they awake to what's going on?
Enough people are. They certainly know where I stand. But honestly, Alex, we got to kind of choose our spots and lay low, unfortunately. And even the folks who would call themselves comparatively conservative, no, I don't think they get the whole thing. And I guess that's my underlying point in speaking to you. When you mention the Ford Foundation, the UN, they know the score. They know what they want to accomplish. And I really do think at least this collection of bishops are really in a haze. Somebody once called the U.S. Bishops' Conference the Democratic Party at prayer.
No, so I've seen that. Yeah, no, it's certainly, and it's not just the Catholic Church, it's the Methodist, even a lot of Baptists. I mean, I see the Catholic Church and other churches put out anti-gun stuff. I mean, it's like, look, this is America. Stop attacking the Second Amendment. I appreciate your call. More calls straight ahead and a ton of news. That Ron Paul interview to premiere here in T-minus 25 minutes. We've got a hardcore interview with Ron Paul coming up. In minutes, Kurt Nimmo has already heard and seen the interview I did with Ron Paul that we taped right before the show kicked off at 11 a.m. today. And so that article is going up in mere minutes at Infowars.com. Then once the audio and video has aired for the first time here on the radio, for our XM listeners, AM and FM listeners, global shortwave, internet stream listeners, Prisonplanet.tv viewers, once the interview has aired, coming up at the bottom of the hour, then we will post the video and the audio and all of it in the articles at Infowars.com. Now, he's got an article coming out, and I was just back there with him working on the headline, titled, Ron Paul, Fast and Furious, a Criminal False Flag. It's up, just went live. Seconds ago, already 2 comments. Ron Paul, Fast and Furious, a Criminal False Flag. You could also have the headline, Justice Department has committed crimes in Fast and Furious. I mean, boom. Boom. It's big. And as soon as we've aired the interview, at the end of the show coming up, in about 50 minutes, we will post the audio and the video right there at Infowars.com. Now, that's only one article. Paul Watson's article, he got the audio as well. We crunched it down in MP3, sent him a link. He's got the article coming up on the angle of Ron Paul saying that the NDAA is martial law. This is big to have Ron Paul coming out and telling it like it is. That's like 4 years ago when we talked about the North American Union and the Security and Prosperity Partnership and the Trans-Texas Corridor. CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, I played the clips here, all went on TV and said, Ron Paul is insane. This does not exist. He is talking about imaginary things. Now, understand, we had at that time the SPP documents. Judicial Watch had sued and gotten them. It was even in some newspapers, mainstream papers. There were billboards up saying, welcome to the first leg of the NAFTA Superhighway Development Inner Port Zone in Kansas City and Dallas, Texas. Ross Perot owned one of them. Giant billboards that we videotaped and that are online in my film Endgame saying Trans-Texas Corridor, part of the NAFTA Superhighway system, official Department of Transportation documents. And